now, O son of man, I have set thee a watchman unto the house of Israel. Therefore, thou shalt hear the word of my mouth and warn them from me.
Have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather expose them.
Coming to you from an undisclosed location in Middle Tennessee and examining current events from a biblical perspective, this is Bible News Radio with your hosts, Randall and Stacy Harp.
All right, people. Yeah, we are. Refresh this. Everything. Am I good enough? Do I measure up? Feels like a war I can't win. But I wasn't given a spirit of fear. I was given the power of love. Everything I've been fighting against. Yeah, I was. I'm gonna be fearless. No holding back, no backing down. This is Jasmine Murray, just so you know. Yep. I want to be. Yeah, we do. These mountains, these giants will fall at a single word. In your name, in your strength, you're more than a conqueror. The power of love. Yeah, you were. Everything I've been fighting against, I'm gonna lift it up. I wanna be fearless. No holding back, no backing down. Cause I believe you're with me now. Yeah, I do. I want to be fearless. I want to be. Yeah, we do. I won't be afraid. I won't be afraid. Yeah. Yeah, we will not. Give me an F. Give me an E. Give me an A-R-L-E-S-S. What's that spell? Fearless. Yeah, it does. I'm gonna be fearless. No holding back, no backing down. Because I believe you're with me now. Bring on the unknown. Lead me and I'll go. You set me free. There we go. People. And there we are, people. Raw. Give me an F. Give me an E. Wait, give me an F. F. Give me an E. A. R. L. E. S. S. What does that spell? What does that spell? Yeah, it does. Fearless. Yeah, it does. All right, that's good. I don't know about you people, but oops.
But you are having lots of fun. Yeah, you are.
Yeah, I am. All right, so this is my purple pom-pom. Is this a pom-pom?
I guess I would call it that.
Really? Okay, so this is it. This I got.
It's a little kind of a pom-pom light, I guess, because it doesn't,
Oh, yeah. Well, because it has the stick.
Well, these do, but, I think of, like, NFL cheerleaders, they're like, akin to an afro, they're just huge.
Right. Well, this is something I got at the Ladies of Justice event. I was one of the event holders. Well, I was the top event holder. Yeah, I was. I was honored, and they gave me one of these. Yeah, they did. They gave me some purple pearls and some earrings, too, to match. But I'm not wearing those, just so you know. Nope. But yes, Fearless. Actually, that was Jasmine Murray, and she was that was actually the song that they played when they called my name up. They called my name to go up and be honored for one of the people that was the top event holder for Ladies of Justice, and it was rather awkward, to be honest. Yeah, it was. Tracy, our fellow associate who went to the event with me, she would tell you that. She'd say, Stacy was kind of a scaredy cat. She went up and greeted all of the committee. It was like, high five. And I'm like, I don't know what to do. And so what I did was I ran behind and I stood behind everybody. And then they called other people up. And I'm like, see, there's proof right there, people, that I am shy. I know, you probably don't think it because, I come off pretty brave here behind the microphone. But in person, I really don't like a lot of people. At one time.
It's kind of like people on social media, they'll be right out there with their opinions, but
right. True.
If you saw them in person, they'd be a little more reserved. Just saying.
Well, I'm reserved to a point. If I have to get up and speak and, if I have to get up and speak and at an event, I can do that. I don't have a problem with that. In fact, I'm actually a pretty good speaker, I think I am. But I do not like to, I really don't like to be the center of attention. I really don't. I don't. I am more of a one-on-one person. That's why I was honored with being a top event holder, because they count a one-on-one as an event. And so I submitted so many of those that I was one of the top people that did it, which still cracks me up. How I got there, I have no clue, but I did have 15 pop-ups in 1 month. That's quite a bit.
Yeah, indeed. That's admirable, and as was recognized in that breakout session and in other places.
Yeah.
But I'm with you. It's not about being the center of attention, but I'm perfectly comfortable speaking to a room full of hundreds, especially if they're strangers.
Right.
And it's not about being the center of attention. It just feels more invisible.
Right.
If there's a dozen people in the room,
yeah,
I'm very self-conscious.
Yeah.
Because then, I don't know, it just seems more personal. If it's a large group, then it's a little more impersonal for me, and so it's more comfortable. But
well, one of the committee members told me, because we were talking afterwards, she came up to me. She's like, "You are kind of shy, aren't you?" And I said, see? Yeah. I said, see? Okay, see, now you get it. And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, see? I said, I really am right on the line. Like 50% extrovert, 50% introvert. And like I said, I get my energy from people, but then I need to be away from people to get my energy back. And I don't know how many of you are like that, but
and this format is like that, because here you are relatively alone. I mean, I'm
right.
sitting across the table, but you can't even see my face in person.
No, but I can touch your feet.
Yeah, we can play footsies under the table. But I know that that's kind of being introverted, and that you're not with crowds. But I know when there's no one watching, you don't know if there aren't any comments, something like that, you don't feel the energy. No. So it's simultaneously being energized by people and also having your personal space. So it's kind of the best of
both worlds.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Your E and your I right here. And video broadcasting.
So I will say hi to Barb over on YouTube, because she's there. Hi, Barb. And there's a couple of people over on Periscope. I don't know how many, because I can't really see any of our normal people in there, because I don't know what's going on with Periscope. I guess Mia's in there, but I don't see, because she just shared it out. Maybe I should just refresh it for a second, because sometimes Periscope likes to act up, but whatever. Okay, anyway, let's see. I'll refresh. There we go. Oh, now I see Sean and Mia. Okay, good. All right, well, anyway, if you're there, thank you for watching. If you're not, then I'm talking to nobody. All right. So anyway, if you want to hear kind of the lowdown about what happened on our trip. We're not going to share that all here on the show. We will share maybe a couple other things on this show, but go back and watch my last episode over on Periscope. I think it was about a half hour where I was beat. I was just tired. I was tired. I am still a little bit tired. It was a long week, not because it was just a long week, but because I got food poisoning and stomach flu. Our flight was delayed. We had a sick dog that we had to get back to. We came back. Randall got sick. He got the stomach flu. I had my birthday. Our dog had emergency eye surgery, which was $2,300. On top of about almost a $900 vet bill when we got back. So it's like $3,400 almost. Yeah.
Amortized over the rest of his natural life.
It's insane.
It can
Hey,
always
Jeff is there
almost
too.
be for it. Yeah.
Right, but I do have a praise report. I have a couple of praise reports. Okay, first of all, I believe in giving God praise and glory, and this is part of how I'm going to share the show with today. So last night, well, I'm trying to debate. I'm trying to figure out where I want to go with, because we are going to get to this story. And just so you know, if you're watching the replay, it'll probably be in a half hour. Okay, just so you know. So if you don't want to hear any of this stuff, just scroll up for like a half hour. Because that's probably when we'll get to the lead story. But we're going to talk about the Word of God just for a second. But so you know how when you go through, you walk your Christian life, right? And you're living your life for the Lord the best that you can, right? Okay? And a lot of things happen. And, the Bible talks about how we can't serve two masters. We really can't. And what are those two masters that he compares? It happens to be him and money, right? So God knew that we were going to have a battle with money. He just knew we were. I mean, duh, hello, right? So, and that's kind of how it is, right? In life, we all struggle with money. Money is a big, huge issue. Money divides people. Money is it's used for power and greed and to bless and to abuse. Money is, money in itself is not evil, but the love of money, the Bible says, is the root of all sorts of evil. And so, I believe God wants to bless his people financially. I do believe that. But I also believe that he doesn't desire, well, I can't say that. I can't speak for God, but I believe that not everybody gets blessed that way, but they are still blessed by God. Let me put it that way. So last night I went to this networking event, and I was talking to a friend of mine who's a realtor, and she's a very devout believer, and we got on this topic of a Halloween party, because one of my friends invited me and Randall to a costume party, and she was there. And anyway, she was telling me about how one day she was talking to somebody who was a Wiccan, and I guess she had broken her foot or something, my friend. And the Wiccans, the Wiccan witch said, you know what, hey, don't worry, I'm going to do a chant for you later to help get your foot better. To which my friend basically said, no, that's okay. You don't have to do that. I'm good. You don't have to do that. Well, it was a short time later, she was sharing with me that all of a sudden she was enveloped in this darkness, and she said she couldn't even look at her wall and explain the darkness because it was not comprehensible. And she felt this pressure come against her, and she said all of a sudden she forgot every scripture she ever knew, and she couldn't think of anything, but she was scared. And finally, through a little time, she was able to cry out on the name of Jesus Christ. And when she did, it broke. The oppressed darkness, the thing broke, and it fled. Now she's telling you, put on on the full armor of God, so that we might be able to withstand the wiles of the devil, right? We do live in a very dark age, and if you don't believe it, all you gotta do is turn on the liberal media or any type of media that's not Christian media, and even so-called Christian media isn't necessarily Holy Spirit sanctified media, right? So this came up as a result of the discussion about the Halloween party, and which I'm not going to go to. I don't like Halloween. I've never been a costume person. It's just not who I am as a person. I just don't celebrate that way. But my friend made a very astute point, and her point was that the enemy of our soul, the minions, the demons out there that are real, they know who God's holy anointed children are, right? They know who we are. They know that, God's call on our life, and they know that we are here waging war against their unfruitful deeds of darkness. We are here to expose the unfruitful deeds of darkness, which, they're unfruitful for God's kingdom. What?
Oh, just wondered what was bouncing to get your microphone. It's making all sorts of noise there.
Weird, I don't know. Anyway, so the enemy knows, right? The enemy knows that we're God's kids, okay? And so from the very beginning of our life, when God set you apart to serve him, things have happened to you. And this is one thing she said to me. She said, things have happened to you from the very beginning of your life. The enemy has tried to destroy you. He's tried to hurt you in ways to help you, to come back at God, to basically tell God that you hate him and that you don't want anything to do with him, to do anything that he can to sway you from serving God, from serving Christ who died for you, right? From getting you to not believe in God. I was thinking about it. I was thinking, yeah, it's true. But how does that manifest itself today? Okay, so my whole life, I went through all the abuse I went through and all that, and God brought me through it all. I don't wallow in any of that at all. But today, how does he do it? And I was telling Randall this last night. What he does is this constant, oh yeah, you know what? God's not going to provide for you. Guess what? You know what? When you went to California, you know what happened? I'm going to flood your kitchen. So now you got a big mess in your house and you got an extra expense. Now you're going to have to figure out how to pay for that. You guys are never going to get ahead, right? So then we go to this conference, this Legal Shield conference. What happens when we're gone? Our dog somehow gets injured. We get smacked with $3,500 extra in debt, right? I'm like, and anyway, it goes on. I mean, it's not just that. There's other stuff too, right? But it's the financial attack, right? And so what better way to attack God's kid than to get them to dwell on, the attack of the enemy, which is, you know what? I'm just going to keep having all this stuff. What? Randall got stomach flu after we got back. I got food poisoning before we got back. We almost had to pay for an extra flight, but we didn't because God was good. God provided. Randall's car didn't start the next morning after we got home. Does that mean he needed a new battery? Well, initially it kind of looked that way, but it turned out he didn't. So we were able to charge that. That was great. But again, it was so anyways, last night when I'm talking to my friend and she made this comment, I came home and I said to Randall, I said, from now on, we can no longer declare that, we can't afford anything, that we don't have the money for fill in the blank, and that, we're not going to complain about what that visible circumstance is because we serve a God who created the whole world, right? The Bible says that he owns the cattle on 1,000 hills, which he does, by the way. And, he can send me a pair of shoes from Amazon anonymously somehow. He can get me to Target using a feminine pad coupon to meet somebody because he declares it so. He can have my name drawn out of thousands of tickets from the Legal Shield stage of the main convention floor for a dinner, knowing I'm hungry, and moments before I said, wouldn't it be great if God just gave me that? And he did. So why do we doubt people? That's my question. And why do we fear when circumstances don't appear the way that we think? Right? So I want to read you out of Luke chapter 9, because as I've been thinking about this, and I know I'm in my flesh, right? I'm going to always waver. I'm going to always stumble. I'm always going to doubt, probably. I'm not perfect. But so I was reading here in Luke chapter 9, beginning of verse 12, it says this. It says, now the day was ending, and the 12 came and said to him, referring to Christ, send the crowd away that they may go into the surrounding villages and countryside and find lodging and get something to eat. For here we are in a desolate place. Now, first thing I noticed here was that the 12 were with him, right? The 12 disciples were with the Lord. And clearly they had thousands of people hanging out with them, right? And the 12 saw the need of these 5,000 at least that were there and understood that they were hungry. They were probably grumbling. Some of them were. They were complaining, hey, I'm hungry, And so the 12 basically was just saying to the Lord, hey, you know what? Just send the crowd away. Send them away so that they can go into the surrounding villages, because we're in a desolate place, so that, they can go get something to eat. And then Jesus says to them, the disciples, he said, you give them something to eat. And they said, we have no more than 5 loaves and 2 fish, unless perhaps we go and buy food for all these people. And the first thing that popped in my head when I saw that was, I've read this a lot. But here's the disciples looking at what they actually immediately had. They had 5 loaves of bread, which probably was enough to feed the 12 of them. If you think about it, they probably could each have a half, maybe a quarter, if some of them didn't eat as much. And then they had 2 fish, and I don't know how big the fish were, but if they were regular sized fish, the 2 fish wouldn't have fed all 12. But the point is, they didn't have a lot of food, certainly not enough to feed 5,000 people. But it goes on to say that Jesus said to his disciples, have them sit down and eat in groups of about 50. And so they did. They had them all sit down, and then Jesus took the 5 loaves and the 2 fish. He looked up to heaven. He blessed them. He broke them, and giving them to the disciples, he set before the people. And they all ate and were satisfied, and the broken pieces which they had left over were picked up, 12 baskets full. Now, I've heard a lot of people teach on this passage, so I'm not going to do an in-depth teaching on here. But what I will say that really stood out to me, and it stood out to me before, is that, at least we don't see here in this particular text the reaction to the crowd, but obviously we do know from other texts, parallel passages, that everybody ate until they were satisfied, which means some of them probably had seconds, thirds. The 5,000 didn't include women and children. And what I can say is that at the very end, they had 12 baskets left, which to me, I find very significant, because there were 12 disciples there. And so it was like, to me, God going, okay, look, little disciple guys, just so you know, we started out with 5 and 2, but now we got 1 for each of you. But don't miss what comes next. And this is really important. Okay. So don't listen up. So then it goes on to say in verse 18, and it happened that while he was praying alone, the disciples were with him, and he questioned them, saying, who do people say that I am? And they answered, said, John the Baptist, and others say Elijah, but others that one of the prophets of old has risen again. And he said to them, but who do you say that I am? And Peter answered and said, the Christ of God. But he warned them and instructed them not to tell this to anyone, saying, the Son of Man must suffer many things and be rejected by the elders and the chief priests and the scribes, and be killed and be raised up on the 3rd day. And he was saying to them all, if anyone wishes to come after me, he must deny himself and take up his cross daily and follow me. For whoever wishes to save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake, he is the one who will save it. For what is a man profited if he gains the whole world and loses or forfeits himself, or forfeits his soul, some versions say. For whoever is ashamed of me and my words, the Son of Man will be ashamed of him when he comes in his glory and the glory of the Father and of the holy angels. But I say to you truthfully, there are some of those standing here who will not taste death until they see the kingdom of God. So what happens after this miraculous event where the Lord feeds all these people and the disciples barely had anything to give? What happens is they get a lesson. And they get asked by the Lord, who do people say that I am? And they get the standard answers, right? Makes sense. But then, who do you say that I am? And Peter declares who he is. He's the Messiah that they had been waiting for. And of course, only the Messiah would be the one to do the miracles that he actually did. To my knowledge, there's probably no other recorded miracle that ever took place the way that we just read about. Right? And so the Lord, in both instances, when you really read what you're reading here, in both instances, what the Lord does with his disciples is he actually turns the focus back to who he is, which goes contrary to our culture today in the church. Because even the opening song I sang, Jasmine Murray's song, Fearless, that whole song is about you, not really the Lord. Right? And I think that's why sometimes we have a hard time walking in faith, because our faith that we're walking in is usually about us and what we see, what we believe, what we think in our little finite little minds, will happen. And yet God is trying to get us outside that box that we think in. He's trying to get us to look outwardly and upwardly to who he is. Like, okay, he can feed anybody. He fed the Israelites in the desert, manna from heaven. He just dropped it down. How'd these guys survive all that time? Well, God fed them. He told them specifically how much to eat and what not to do as well. And did the people do it? Yes and no. What happened when they disobeyed? Well, it went bad. Just saying. And they didn't have refrigeration like, we do today. And so let that be, let that be an encouragement to you, because I think that we are living in days, especially in the church, where there's so much deception in the church, where, it's really easy to go, oh, well, we can't believe in that God. We can't believe in Jesus and who he is or who he said he was, because after all, look at blah, 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 and who they are. They say they follow that Jesus person, but look at their life. They're corrupt. They're immoral. They're sinners. They're liar. They're greedy. They're this, they're that, blah, 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 blah. And again, the enemy is so clever. He gets us to look over here instead of look over at who Christ is, Something bugging you still?
Yeah, it's just a lot of, like, the microphone boom is being hit a lot.
Gotcha. Anyway, so...
Sorry.
So the point is that I want to encourage you in your faith as I encourage me in my faith, right? Because, I'm not going to lie and go, oh, I'm so super happy that we just got smacked with $3,700 more in debt, plus almost $8,000 in taxes we got to figure out how to pay. It's like, okay, all right, whatever. I'm looking at it going, okay, yeah, to me, like the whole outside world, it looks completely impossible to pay all that off, right? But what I know is if God can feed 5,000 people with a few pieces of bread and fish, then he can certainly meet your need, and he can certainly meet my need. He can. And I do believe that. I do believe it. I believe it. Right? as little as it is. And here's the thing, and this is the thing I want to encourage you with. I really want to encourage you to step out in actual faith. I'm not talking word of faith. I'm not talking declare it and blah, blah, and all that crap, which is a load of crap. Okay. I'm not talking about any of that stuff. I'm talking about believing God and taking him at his word and actually believing that he will do what he has sent his word to do and accomplish. Because his word says that his word does not return void, and it will accomplish that which he has sent it out to do. Right? And if you're his daughter or his son, then you don't have to worry about anything because he has you in the palm of his hand. He's going to take care of you. He's going to protect you, and he will provide for you. Right? That's what his word says. And I can tell you, honestly, I've never gone a day without eating except last week. I did not eat a few days after food poisoning / stomach flu. But I have never been without food or shelter, even when I lived in a homeless shelter. And God has always provided what I need. Not always what I want, but what I need. He always has. And so last night I put out a request. I asked in faith if people want to donate to us to help with our bill with our dog. I'm putting that out not because I'm begging and I'm like, oh, please give me money and all that other stuff. But you know what? One thing I've learned, and it's been a humbling experience for me, is that, you know what? You don't get unless you ask, right? People don't know your need unless you share what it is. This is a legit need. Some people hate animals. They might not want to give to it. I get it. There are some causes I won't give to. But, if you guys find it in your heart, you want to donate a couple bucks to help us pay off Tuggy Bear's surgery, then we'll take it, okay? Because it's a big bill and we tapped out our care credit. And I do want to say something. My brother this morning, who is my younger brother, he called me up and he and his wife offered to pay $500 towards that bill, which is a highly unusual action on their part, just so you know. So $500 has already been paid off. And then one of our friends of our show, I'm not going to embarrass them because I know that they wouldn't want me to, but they also donated $150 towards that bill. So we already got that bill down to, what is it, $1,600 or something now, down from $2,300. I think it is. I don't know. I'm trying to look at it. Yeah, so now it's $1,659. So if anybody out there would like to help me and Bareface pay off our vet bill, because we care for God's creatures, then that would be awesome.
It's a tough situation because people will, watch these videos online, Facebook, whatever, the dodo or whatever, or the
right.
Or the, dog rescue things, and they'll see the dogs that aren't taken care of, and they'll say, you think, what meanies, what's wrong with people that they don't, care for their animals? You shouldn't have an animal if you can't care for it.
Right.
And so, if you've got a dog that injures its eye, and it's rupturing, what do you do? The other people will just go look at them out and say, well, $2,300, you should just put the dog down. It's
right.
Like, that's irresponsible. If you don't have that kind of money, you should just put the dog down. You shouldn't have to sell your car, get a mortgage on your house to, it's not worth it. Then, if the dog can just lose its eye, it should lose its life. Yeah, I can't put my head there that if the dog is, it's better for the dog to lose its life. Then, well, if he lost his eye, eventually he would lose his life because, infection and all that kind of stuff. But, to surgically remove the eye would have been just as much as to save the eye.
Yeah.
And we still don't know if the eye will be saved. Probably. It's looking really good on day 2. It looks really
good. It looks good.
It
actually it actually looks like an eye. It's starting to look like an eye.
Yeah, but then the conjunctival graft there, it looks more wounded than the hole it had in it, but that's that's the way it's supposed to look when it's doing right. When it's
Yeah. The bottom line is,
anyway.
some people are going to be jujgmental.
Oh yeah.
But the irony is that they won't be judgmental of the hipster hypesters crooks out there who are legitimately stealing from people in Jesus' name.
Yeah.
You know,
Fleecing the flock.
Right. Anybody who wants to see this detailed debt bill, we can show it to you. Okay. Just saying. But anyway, but my encouragement, and I would hope Bareface would agree, is that this isn't about us and what we see. It's about what the Lord can provide for us and through.
And situations like that, and rather than saying, "No, woe is me," and this sucks. I mean, look back to Exodus. I mean, soon after, in deliverance from Egypt, they're up against the Red Sea.
Right.
And the Egyptian army pursuing, it's like, well, this sucks. You bring us out here just to die? So we get killed out here in the wilderness instead of killed back in Egypt? Death by slavery was so much better than death by army. And anyway, and what did, I love what Moses says. When God tells him to go and lift up his staff by the sea, Hebrew it's Hine Yeshua, behold the Lord's salvation,
Right.
and anyway, and so it's when in those dire circumstances that God loves to show Himself mighty. Right. So,
well,
if you find yourself, I mean, I'm sure there are those of you in more circumstance than we are. I mean, ours are just financial and emotional challenges, and emotional because of...
Well, okay, but here's the other thing, too. We just got back from a conference, right? Okay, so this conference, I will tell you, we met a lot of Christians at this conference, and this conference was awesome.
Indeed.
It was not a Christian conference, but what I can tell you is that the Christian principles, the people that talked at this, some of the top producers in this company, the Hoffmans, as an example, they gave this. Here was one of the most powerful things. So John and Darcy Hoffman and their daughter Brielle are top income earners here in Tennessee in the Knoxville area. They've been in the business for a while. They've earned $800,000 in 1 year, almost $1 million. They have earned well over $1 million in this business. But what they shared in one of their speeches was, well, it was the only speech I heard, was they got up there as a family and they talked about how they had to learn to put God first, family second, and finances, and their work third. And they also talked about how Darcy talked about how she was confronted by somebody, a friend of hers, who I guess for 7 years never heard her say anything nice about her husband. Always had bad things to say about him. Never built him up, pretty much degraded him and put him down. And, she was wholly repentant. And, imagine 4,000 people watching you say this, and basically just repented when she was confronted by her friends saying, why don't you talk about your husband, how God sees him and the potential that God has for him and build him up. And she was convicted by that. And actually, as a result of her repentant behavior toward him in public, he ended up becoming a man of God, and God ended up blessing him and their family. And it was awesome. I mean, it was truly awesome, little a awesome, but it was very encouraging.
And the testimony of their daughter Brielle, she was saying that, the before it was nominal Christianity, like when she was in single digit ages, 6 or 7 or 5, 6, 7, whatever it was. And then when her parents got serious about following the Lord, she saw the transition in them. And then she talked about how God's blessing in their particular lives financially. she talked about the many mission trips she was able to go on, and not just participate in, volunteer with a person, but also, contribute in many ways to.
And that's how it is with some of the other top income earners in this company, is that they're people of faith. And what they've done is they've sold a membership, whether it's identity theft protection or the Legal Shield plan, to help people. Because this is a company that's all about helping people. And look, let's admit it. There are companies out there that don't give a crap about people. All they want is their money, okay? Like alcohol companies, beer distillation, cereal companies. They don't really give a crap about helping people. But with our service, power's in the palm of your hand, and also pom-pom if you're a lady of justice. But anyway, the product that we have is a genuine, honest, great product that, we sell it, make money, build a team, make money. Not a lot of money in the beginning. It's not going to happen. But that's how these people have become, financially well off. And it's taken them decades to do it. These people didn't get rich overnight. They didn't build their, quote, empire overnight. But they learned to serve the Lord and to serve other people, which is basically the encouragement of the conference that we just came back from. And telling somebody, one of the Lady of Justice ladies, who I think is liberal actually, but I said to her, I spent probably the equivalent of 4 to 5 months of what I earn in Ladies of Justice every month to come to this conference. It was a couple $1,000s for us to get there. It's all paid off because I put aside the money. But, when you're making $400, maybe $500 at the high end, that's like, and what she said to me, she said, don't look at it that way. Don't look at it as you just spent half a year's worth of your income to come to this conference. Look at it as an investment in your future, what you learned at this conference. And so that's what I'm doing, because that's where you grow. That's where you grow. People who aren't willing to sacrifice anything for what they believe, they don't really believe it. And that's the point of the other thing in Luke chapter 9, where it's said here at the end, where Jesus said, if anyone wishes to come after me, he must deny himself and take up his cross daily and follow me. For whoever wishes to save his life will lose it, but for whoever loses his life for my sake, he is the one who will save it. What shall it profit a man if he gains the whole world and yet loses his soul? You know what? If you're not willing to lose the whole world for the Lord, then do you really, really believe the Lord? And that principle carries over to the rest of your life. For me, I wanted to be a therapist so bad that I sacrificed a ton of stuff in order to pay for graduate school and college all those years that I went. I was willing to give up stuff to do it, just like a professional athlete's willing to give up sugar or whatever it is that they need to give up in order to get their body in tip-top physical condition in order to make it be, And this is where, honestly, leaders and followers differ. Because the leader is willing to make that sacrifice. The leader is willing to lead by example and say, look, this is how it's done. You know what? No whining, no whimpering, no sniveling. If you fall down, get your butt back up and try again. Whereas the follower, or AKA the cow, if you're not a rhino, the follower is like, well, I can't do it. My toe hurts. I have a headache. And I'm not going to, they'll come up with any excuse under the sun because they really don't want it bad enough. People who tell me, well, I can't do blah, 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 blah in order to help myself. I go, well, it's not that you can't do it. It's that you won't do it. Money is never an excuse. Trust me on that one. Okay. Your motivation is the issue, and your ambition is the issue, and that's the truth. That's the truth, right? I heard somebody at the conference say, hey, Jeff and Natasha, I see you in there. I heard somebody at the conference say, imagine just for a minute that the person that you loved in the whole world, You know, they got vitally sick, and it costs $10,000 to get serum in order to make them better. You had a week to get the $10,000, or they're going to die, you know, if you don't get the serum. What would you do? Well, there's no way I can't. Oh, well, I guess they're just going to have to die. That's some people, for sure. That would not be me. I would be calling everybody I could think of. I would be doing whatever I could to get the money in order to save my husband. Just saying. You know. And that is the difference. That's the difference between being a leader and being a follower. Being a sniveler and being a superstar. That's the difference. And as Christians, we have no excuse but to be the superstar, if you will. Just saying that. Just, you know, superstar, sniveler, you know, just kind of have the S theme going on. Not that you know, I would walk around calling you a superstar, but I think you understand my point, right? Okay, just saying, you know. So with that said, now that it's 45 minutes into the show, you know, I want to read. Barb said, "This is the time for dramatic miracles, so go for it. Ask, and you shall receive." Right? Anything in accordance with God's will, according to his will, we will receive it. I believe that. But I also believe that if you don't ask, you don't get it. You know, James says to ask for wisdom, right? But if you don't ask, you're not going to get it. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like, don't sit around and go like, well, I can't get it. You need to ask. You know? Some of you have been so stuck, and you're stuck because you're too prideful to ask for what it is you need or want or where you need to go. That's a fact right there. You think you could do it by yourself. You can't. That is one of the big lessons out of this conference too, is you can't do life by yourself, people. As much as you want, if you're an introvert, you're one of these people that, oh, I'm scared of people. I don't want to talk to people. You know, I'm going to spend the rest of my life by myself and in my little shell. And you know what? You're going to be a miserable person. You're going to die by yourself. Nobody's coming to your funeral. Just say, you know, you're miserable. You're going to die the same way you lived. And that's pathetic. You know, you need to knock it off, and you need to get outside yourself and stop being so self-absorbed. And you need to think about other people and grow up. I'm sorry I said that out loud. But it's true. Okay, Bareface wants to say something.
I just wanted to give a shout out to Commander Root.
Commander Root?
And Electrical Longboard over on Twitch.
That's funny. Commander Root and Electrical Longboard?
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
It is Twitch after all.
Well, give you a hearty pom-pom cheer. Yay! Okay, anyway. You have to go back to see what that was about. Okay, anyway, so do you want to talk about the lead story now? Or do you want to comment on anything I just said?
Yeah, let's do the let's get into the news part.
All right, so Beto O'Rourke, is that how you say it? Or is it Beto? Beto?
Oh, you want to start with that one?
Well, it's
kind of a lead story, yeah.
Okay. All right, so Robert, a.k.a. Beto O'Rourke, says here, a Catholic and a presidential candidate for the Democratic Party called for churches and religious institutions to lose their tax-exempt status if they oppose same-sex marriage. Joining other Democratic candidates in defending their respective LGBTQ platform stances on Thursday evening during a CNN televised town hall, O'Rourke said, "There can be no reward, no benefit, no tax break for anyone that denies the full human rights and the full civil rights of every single one of us." As the audience cheered, O'Rourke continued saying, "And so as president, we are going to make that a priority, and we are going to stop those who are infringing upon the human rights of our fellow Americans." At the CNN LGBTQ Equality Town Hall, co-sponsored by the Pro-LGBTQ Human Rights Campaign, O'Rourke also said the efforts to help people overcome unwanted same-sex attractions, dubbed as conversion therapy by critics, should be illegal because it is tantamount to torture of children.
Probably didn't say murder or suicide.
We will ensure that there are penalties stiff enough, enforcement vigorous enough to make sure it does not continue, he added. O'Rourke took a step further in the direction of stripping churches and charities of, if they oppose same-sex marriage. Then Senator Cory Booker, Democrat, New Jersey, when asked what he would do as president, Booker said there would be, quote, consequences, unquote, for churches and religious institutions stopping short of ending tax exemptions. He did not say outright whether they would lose their exemption status. When asked whether religious education institutions should lose their tax exempt status if they opposed LGBTQ rights, the senator replied, "We must stand up as a nation to stay that religion cannot be an excuse to deny people health insurance, education, or more," apparently broadening the issue to include private employers. "You cannot discriminate," he said. "I'm going to make sure that I hold them accountable." Conservative Republican and former business executive Herman Cain tweeted on Friday, "Does your church preach the gospel? Then Beto, whatever, O'Rourke wants to take away its tax exemption." So, anyway, I'm not going to say any more because it's kind of long and I'm not going to read all that. But I think the point is that these people are severely blinded by Satan and they're misguided for sure. And they don't love God at all. They hate God, in fact, and they hate God's ways, and they don't know the Lord at all. So this is what somebody in darkness looks like. Just saying.
Yeah, and it's until recently, anyway, the Catholic Church has been a staunch supporter of natural/traditional/biblical marriage, and so for him to be a Catholic and say he's gonna, wants to penalize every church that doesn't, that champions traditional/natural/
church.
Yeah.
Okay. Denise said it is Beto. Beto?
Okay, Beto O'Rourke.
Beto, huh?
All right.
Yeah.
But,
okay. Thank you, Denise. And it is not a civil right to sin. Well,
no. Yeah, well,
right.
He talks about human rights. He didn't say, well, there was mention of civil rights. A legal right is not necessarily a human right. There are things that are legal in this country and in others that are rights because they're granted by the law, but they aren't a human right. So to conflate legal rights with human rights is in error, I believe. But I'm going to take a different sort of view on this and take a step back. And what are we talking? We're talking about taxes exemption. Exempt from what taxes? Basically, we're talking about income taxes primarily.
Right.
And income tax is something that was implemented in the early 20th century, not originally constitutional, but added by constitutional amendment. Not that all constitutional amendments are bad, but that whole structure of income tax gave the federal government an extra layer of control by default. It's like, you owe us these taxes, and if you're going to be successful in any way, if you're going to earn income, then you owe us. You can't succeed without giving up to us. We're the landowners that are going to take a percentage of your produce. Like a feudal sort of society, which the founding fathers left and wanted to get, escape from that kind of thing, where everything belonged to the crown or the government and your success was their success. They wanted to get away from that. And as you read the Constitution before, I forget which amendment, 17th Amendment, I remember that, put in...
Man, I'm tired.
Federal income tax. The government, and it worked well for nearly 200 years, funded by tariffs and excise taxes. That is, tariffs, if you people outside the U.S. want to bring your goods into this market, you have to pay to do that, because you're taking away from produce here and you're taking money out of here. As you make money off our citizens, you're taking it back to your country because you're selling your country's goods. Okay, that's fine. You see a bigger market here, but you're going to have to pay to play. Tariffs.
Right.
Excise taxes. That is when you spend, you pay. We still have excise taxes. There's gasoline taxes and tire taxes and all, sales taxes and things like that. But those are more or less discretionary. If you pay this or buy these things that you're going to pay tax on that. And some things, and it used to be like so-called luxury tax, other things carried a higher tax burden. It's like, well, do I need that Mercedes-Benz? Do I need the Tesla or the giant, 80-inch TV or whatever? Of course, it used to be those things had the tax on. They didn't have that back before, 1912 or whatever. But, there were, I'm just using present day examples instead of things from, the early 20th century. Taxes on mansions or whatever, silk suits or whatever. There were taxes on those things because they were discretionary spending. But those things funded the governments, the tariffs and excise taxes. With the implementation, not coincidentally, of income tax as the Federal Reserve came in, where not only the value of money was more or less capriciously defined or determined, just whatever the federal government says it is, which isn't really the federal government, whatever the Federal Reserve, which is neither federal nor reserve. Anyway, that's a whole other thing.
Read The Creature from Jekyll Isle.
Right.
That's a good book. If you have not read it, you should read it because it tells you everything about how the Federal Reserve was
not
put into
only is federal taxation, income tax rather, not federal tax. So federal tax is fine, tariffs and excise taxes, but income tax, given the federal government an upper hand, a default sort of obligation. You owe this out of the gate. If you are productive in any way, you owe us. We take a cut. Mm-hmm. It's already it's already putting what's the word I'm looking for?
I don't know.
Let's get simple. Say a chain on citizenry. In this case, now it's this other thing. This is tax exempt that hooked into you, 501c3 and all that. You don't have to pay taxes as long as you play, as long as you agree with us. And, you say something we don't like, then we take that away. And if there were not income taxes to begin with, this wouldn't be a threat.
Right.
And it's just, I just see this sort of, long play of just setting up this construct where now, because of income tax, there can be this extra thing held out there as a punishment if you don't walk in step. Anyway. And then of course, when you think about unnatural marriage, unbiblical marriage,
it's not marriage.
It's not.
I wish they'd stop calling it marriage. It's not marriage.
It has nothing to do with the general welfare,
right,
of the nation. It has it has no direct benefit on, and so anyway, to promote that is to put again more power in a centralized oligarchy.
Right. So there you have it.
Anyway,
well,
spent too much time in this article.
So Ariel Ministries
nice segue
is our sponsor, people.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, they are. Yay. Okay. For at least the end of the year. I don't know if if they're gonna keep sponsoring us. I hope they do. It'd be nice if they did. Ariel.org, those where you go. Save 20% when you use the coupon code Bible News. BIBLENEWS. Bible News. What's that spell? Bible News. Yay! Just go to ariel.org and use Bible News to save 20%. You can get lots of stuff over there. If you guys need recommendations, just hit us up. We can tell you good stuff to get. All right? All right. And also, if you want to be pillars of our community, and I have to say thank you to those of you who are. You know what? Every month we get donations from some of you who are our pillars, you know, of our community. You guys, we love you. You know that because, you know, you really have no idea how much what you give us, even if it's you feel like it's not a ton or whatever. Hey, $5, $10, $25, $100, $200, whatever it is you want to give. It helps us in more ways than you know. True story. So if you want to be one of those people, just donate over at our website, BibleNewsRadio.com. Help us to keep doing what we do for the Lord. Because really this is our heart. I mean, this really is, you know, God's called us to this. And, you know, the enemy will do what he can to try to undermine it and to, you know, to take it away, to stop the voice of reason, you know, the biblical voice out there. But anyways, thank you guys for your support. And of course, Legal Shield. I want to share with you that if you happen to be one of our Canadian viewers, now Canada is opened all up. Every single province in Canada, Legal Shield, you can now get Legal Shield in every area of Canada. So if you're one of our Canadian buds and you have wanted to sign up for Legal Shield and get our services, get in touch with me because I can sign you up. Because Canada is now open everywhere in Canada. And you know what? They are going to, it's finally a free day in Canada where you guys can get legal help that is going to help you in the socialist country that you live in. Okay? And I don't mean that in a mean way, but Canada's medical care is definitely socialism. And, you know, and you need your rights. You need to be able to protect yourself. Okay, so all of Canada is open, and if you still haven't yet signed up for identity theft insurance, I'm going to give you another reason right here. Actually, two reasons one reason to get Legal Shield, another reason to get ID Shield. Okay, for the first reason is American Express has now admitted to a data breach from an employee trying to commit fraud. Okay, now here's a new story. This isn't in Canada, but this is in America. And I don't know how many of you are American Express holders. I'm not personally, but I do know some people use American Express. It says here, AMX, American Express has sent a data breach notice to a portion of its customers explaining their personal account information may have been wrongfully accessed by one of its employees in an attempt to commit fraudulent activity. The letter from the U.S.-based card provider sent September 30th says its employee may have opened accounts at other financial institutions, compromising names, card numbers, billing addresses, dates of birth, and social security numbers. American Express says it immediately launched an investigation into the data breach in response, working with law enforcement agencies to find out who is behind it. The card provider told customers affected to stay vigilant over the next 12 to 24 months and to enable free fraud and account activity alerts on their American Express app. As a peace offering, the multinational firm, which has $188 billion in assets, offered compromised customers complimentary 2-year membership to Experian Identity Works, which will help them detect future misuse of their personal data and immediately identify cases of theft or fraud. Customers already paying for that will get 2 years free added to their subscription. Also, American Express assured customers whose information was exposed that they will not be held liable for fraudulent charges. And of course, it won't say how many customers were actually breached, according to the article. And it says here, I would note that this was not a breach of American Express's systems, but it was a person in question who was an employee who is now no longer an employee of American Express. All the more reason, though, to get your identity theft protection, because whereas this just protects the credit card, our whole service protects everything And I literally mean that. It protects everything. It protects your social, your passport, your credit cards, your phone numbers, your mom's maiden name, all your bank accounts, your social media, and there's a whole bunch of other stuff I can't list, but
Yeah, and here they say, "Oh, you won't be liable for fraudulent charges." Well, that's the case with any credit card,
right?
But okay, so there are fraudulent charges. Oh, you won't be liable for those. But what about the effort it takes to clear all that up and to chase all that down and say that wasn't mine and blah blah blah? And I doubt they're going to reimburse you for that. Any time off of work, phone calls, etc. Anything you have to, any copies of stuff you have to get, etc.
You know what? I just signed up a customer here in Tennessee for ID Shield 3, which we monitor all 3 bureaus with ID Shield 3. And she's an older lady, not that much older than me, but let's say 10 years older than me. But not real tech savvy. And when I got her the app, she put it on her phone, and she saw how many of her emails had already been breached. She was shocked. And I actually told her before she even signed up, I said, you're going to find that all your emails need to be changed. I guarantee you. I promise you. Because with me, it was 15 different things. But anyway, my point is that here's somebody who wasn't tech savvy, who I was trying to help understand the power of the technology. If you have a smartphone, this app goes on your phone and you get those alerts on your phone. I got an alert today on mine for ID Shield. And it just gives you that knowledge that you normally wouldn't have. Yeah, you can get your what do you call it? Your credit report. Well, let's just be honest. How many people put that on your calendar? Oh, today's April 15th. I will go ahead and check my credit report. People don't do that. You just
get your free annual credit report. Once a year, you get it free. You see how things have in the past year. Right.
Well, why get it when you can have it monitored and you can look at it anytime you want on your phone? Okay? That's crazy. Anyway, so if you want to do that, just sign up with me, get in touch with me, and I will get you signed up. Go ahead.
I just want to add one more thing. A lot of these things I see, and I get these alerts about these email and/or password dark web alerts.
Yeah.
What ID Shield alerts you to is that we're not talking about financial institutions and American Express or whatever inside. A lot of times when you buy pot holders from mom and pops,
Yeah.
Country store.
What?
Oh, create an account, and you put in your email and you create a password and you create an account there. These things are hacked often.
All the time.
And all the time. And they're not reported. They don't get reported in the news, mom and pop's country store. But then people say, oh, they've got a name and they've got a password they've hacked, and they sell it out there on the dark web. And that's one reason people do not use the same password for everything, because they'll get it from mom and pop's oven mitt store, and that'll be up for sale. Somebody will buy it and they'll try it in different places, and heck, it could be your bank with the same password, whatever. And then but so what
do you want?
When your email and passwords stolen from these various places show up on the dark web for sale, then you get these alerts, and then it's okay. So even your own email or whatever, and sometimes it'll tell you the site where they got it, and so that tells you go in and change your password for that, and otherwise you would never know, because those places don't tell you that.
Nope.
Anyway, back to you.
Back to me. Well, anyway, so it says here that, anyway, so that's one thing. All right, so now let me look at this article. Has your newborn's identity already been stolen? This is a new article over on abcnews.com, and it says here, Imagine discovering that your newborn's brand new Social Security number has already been used to construct what Eva Velasquez, president and CEO of the Identity Theft Resource Center, calls a Frankenstein monster of identity. Parents may discover their newborn's tarnished Social Security number when they try to use it to file taxes, apply for government benefits, or attempt to freeze the baby's credit. Suddenly, an application or tax form is kicked back, and the parents go, "What are you talking about? They don't even know what this means," says Velasquez, whose nonprofit helps victims of identity theft, and through no fault of their own, they're left holding the bag, and they are the ones that are now responsible for cleaning up the mess. An identity theft victim at birth? The rise in synthetic identity theft, where criminals piece together a fake consumer, is an unintended consequence of Social Security number randomization,
There you go.
which was initiated in 2011 to expand the pool of available numbers. Old Social Security numbers had clues to geography and birth dates in the digits. Randomizing the numbers made it harder for scammers to guess them, but also made it harder for creditors to spot the bogus use of a Social Security number on an application. Before randomization, people, criminals typically purchase minors' Social Security numbers on the black market or track down the numbers of dead children. But now, sometimes the number is just completely made up. Fraud detection measures used previously have become ineffective because it's no longer possible to pair a Social Security number with a location or approximate age. Criminals often start with a not yet issued Social Security number to create a fake identity. If it works, the number becomes attached to a credit file for a consumer who doesn't exist. Anyway, it goes on, talks more about that. I'm not going to read the whole thing. But what I will say is that in 2017, these identity theft services that track this stuff said that over 1 million children had their identities stolen in 2017 alone. 1 million. Which is why with our ID Shield product, our family plan covers the parents or domestic partners and 10 children under 18 years old for $30 a month for the 3 bureau plan. For the 2 bureau or the 1 bureau plan, it's $25 a month. So why would you want to get that one? We can get $5 more and get, $1 million insurance policy and stuff, and get all 3 bureaus monitored. And I can tell you that I'm probably going to put together some type of identity theft workshop and explain some of this more, because the more I've researched this, you guys, it is insane the type of identity theft that these people are coming up with. I mean, seriously, and I don't know about how many of you, when you think about your Social Security in general, like I was born in New York, and my brother's Social Security number is one number different than mine. It's actually funny. I asked him for it, I was like, "Hey, can I have your social?" He's like, "What do you want it for?" I'm like, if you want to get like benefits from Dad's death, you need to give it to me so I can give it to Social Security. For my dad, for when my dad dies, our dad dies. Promise you don't give it to anybody. I'm like, why would I? What am I going to do with your Social Security number, you butthead? I mean, that's just like, but my point in saying that is that, going back to the olden days, my social and my brother's social, we're 18 months apart. Our numbers are 1 number apart because we were born in the same place, and not too far apart. But anyway, but now they do randomize it. Yeah, they do. Nailed it, people. Yeah, I did. Okay. All right. One other thing. Yesterday, the governor of Tennessee actually declared a day of prayer and fasting here in Tennessee. One of the most holy states in the land. Yeah, we are. We're the volunteer state. Yes, where you can come and get your heart blessed here in Middle Tennessee. Anyway, so there's an article that was supposed to be funny. Okay, just laugh. Don't be like a stick in the mud. Okay. All right. Anyway, it says here, news flash. Fox News Flash, top headlines for October 10th are here. Check out what's clicking on foxnews.com. That's funny that it said that. Anyway, the governor of Tennessee declared Thursday as a day of prayer, humility, and fasting for the volunteer state, but an atheist group is claiming the initiative is a disservice to the Constitution. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. Republican Governor Bill Lee, along with his wife Maria Lee, invited all Tennesseans who wish to participate to join us in a day of prayer for this remarkable state we are blessed to call home earlier this month for the day set aside on October 10th. I wanted to share with you something I've had on my heart these 9 months since I've become governor, Lee said in a video posted on Twitter. Everywhere that Maria and I travel to across this great state, we're met with countless numbers of people that come up to me and say, Governor, we're praying for you and for Maria and for your family. I want you to know that we deeply appreciate those prayers because we know that God hears them. He added, we know that prayer accomplishes much. Prayer strengthens our families and it strengthens our communities. It strengthens our relationship with our neighbors. It strengthens our relationship with God himself. But not everyone is a fan of the proposal, people. Yeah, no, they're not. The co-presidents of the Freedom from Religion Foundation, Dan Barker and Annie Laurie Gaylor, wrote an op-ed in the Knoxville News Sentinel calling Lee's proclamation inappropriate and a disservice to the Constitution and his citizens. The Establishment Clause of the First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution prohibits government sponsorship of religious messages, as the governor must know.
No, it doesn't.
The leaders of the Wisconsin-based atheist group wrote, encouraging the governor to issue a proclamation celebrating the freedom of conscience afforded by the constitutional separation between religion and government. David Plazas, the director of opinion and engagement for the USA Today network, wrote a similar op-ed in the Nashville Tennessean titled, Governor Bill Lee's call to pray does not violate the law, but it creates a slippery slope. Plazas wrote, there are some problematic passages in Lee's proclamation for a day of prayer on Thursday that challenge the spirit of the Constitution's Religious Freedom Clause because his words create the impression that the governor is speaking for all Tennesseans when it comes to their faith or lack of religious affirmation. However, Jeremy Dice, First Liberty Institute Special Counsel for Litigation and Communications, told Fox News' Lee's proclamation is consistent with some of the most cherished and long-standing traditions in our country. Traditions, the Supreme Court recently explained, bear a presumption of constitutionality. Presidents and governors alike have issued proclamations urging citizens to pray since the earliest days of our nation, Dice said. The First Amendment to the Constitution supports Governor Lee's proclamation in the same way. It approved of similar proclamations from George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, and Franklin D. Roosevelt. But wait.
Go ahead.
So the FRUFRA people, the freedom from religion people, Dan Barker and
Annie Laurie.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Annie Laurie Gaylor. These people are miserable people. I mean, they're just depressed. They need therapy, I think. They are on a mission from the devil to try to stop prayer, right? They're so obsessed with it. It's like they've been doing this forever. And Dan, he was a believer at one point, and he left the faith. And so this is an example of an apostate. Somebody who just hates God for whatever reason. God, he's clearly an apostate. He's set aside as a vessel of dishonor according to the book of Romans. Just go read it. You'll see it. And, he's kind of a pest. And so just pray for him that maybe God would soften his heart like he did Pharaoh's heart. And these people are just stupid. They just knock it off because it's like, yeah, anyway.
Anyway, first, this announcement. I know where all the noise is. I see your arm is like resting against the springs of the... Yeah, and every time you move, you can go back, check the replay. But, quiz, for all out there, how many know what the first word of the First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. What we call the First Amendment is, if you look at the text, anyway. But what's referred to as the First Amendment, the Establishment Clause. Does anybody know what the first word of that is? Okay, I'm gonna need to look at the. Is anybody? People are googling it right now.
Wait, let them Google it.
Oh.
I have to stay on the box. I keep forgetting.
Yeah. I'm gonna look over there.
I forgot to get myself some water.
And nothing. Hey, Swiftly 75.
So Rhett Quigley wrote over on YouTube this funny comment. He wrote, "Trace the history of all the self-professed Christian churches. Only the Catholic Church goes back to Jesus Christ in 33 AD. Every other church was created by men much later. It's a fact of history."
Okay, so
It's a fact of revisionist history. Do you watch the Revisionist History channel by any chance? Because, that's probably where you learn that.
well, if you mean the Catholic Church, I mean Universal
Well,
Church, yes,
probably-
the Universal Church.
I don't think that...
But if you mean the Roman Catholic Church,
think that's
where the Pope is the supreme ruler, the
The
Holy
Pope-
See, and all that,
Our current Pope has got some emotional problems.
the
Yeah, he does.
the Roman Catholic Church is an outcome of the Holy Roman Empire, going back to Constantine, and it's a fact of history. Check it out in early church writings.
Yeah.
There was no Roman Catholic Church in the first or second century.
I love the assertions of our people who tune in for 5 seconds
So
and then they
Yeah,
then
so
they
if
walk
you're talking
away.
about Catholic Church as what the word means, Catholic as
universal.
Church. But nowadays when people talk Catholic Church, they're usually talking the Roman Catholic Church with the papal hierarchy and all that. That's
Well,
not a...
Yeah. I have problems with the Roman Catholic Church.
Anyway, so...
Yeah, I do.
Anyway, the first word of the First Amendment, I didn't see it over there on Facebook or YouTube or Twitch.
Quick, Barb, Denise, if you're still watching, give us
Anyway.
the answer to the question.
Anyway, I'll just jump in for sake of time. It's 22 minutes after the hour. First word is Congress.
Congress.
Congress shall make no law.
CONGRESS. Congress.
All right. Is Tennessee Governor Bill Lee, is he a member of the House or the Senate? Neither. He's not even the federal government. He's a state government. What about, this mayor or this city council, whatever? As far as I know, they're not any member of the federal government, let alone a member of Congress. Not a member of the House of Representatives or the Senate. They're not part of the federal, the Congress of the federal government. The First Amendment is about limiting the powers of Congress, much of the United States Constitution, the Constitution of the United States of America. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, nor prohibiting the free exercise thereof. Declaring a state governor declaring a day of prayer and fasting is not Congress making the law. A city council having an invocation and meeting is not Congress making a law. Okay, so just whether we can argue all day about what an establishment of religion is, whether that's a particular denomination, whether that's a particular just wholesale faith like Christianity or, Islam, not breaking it down to Sunni or Shiite or, particular denominations, whatever. We can argue all day about an establishment of religion is, but there should be no argument about what Congress is in the First Amendment. And what a law is. A law made by Congress. There shouldn't be any discussion about that. So it just humors me and angers me when we got the people like from FRF saying, well, the governor should know that the First Amendment, prohibits government endorsement of religion. No, it prohibits Congress making any law that respects an establishment of religion or prohibits the free exercise thereof. So anyway,
Well,
Bill
but-
Lee is not a member of Congress. Let's debate what establishment of religion is. But if he's saying let's have a day of prayer and fasting, is he prohibiting the free exercise of religion?
I would say that Dan is out of order, people.
Yeah, it's just.
And his wife, too. The frou-frou people are out of order.
It's just,
That's right.
it's just crazy that we allow this. Well, what is an establishment of religion? Well, freaking, let's get to the first few words. Congress shall make no law respecting.
Do you want the gavel?
Yeah. No.
Sure.
No, it's
Go
not.
ahead. Just feel the power in the palm
it's
of
not,
your hand.
It's not necessary.
Well, just hold it.
Yes, dear.
Okay, just.
All right.
Yeah, do you feel more powerful now?
Congress shall make no law. It's about the U.S. Congress.
I might have to buy him a gavel for Christmas.
And guess what? The House of Representatives don't make law. The Senate does not make law. It's the two houses together, signed by the president, or in case it's veto, it's 2/3 of both. Anyway, together they make the law. It's not a mayor, it's not a governor, it's not a whole city freaking council.
And remember, when a bill becomes a law on Schoolhouse Rock,
yeah.
that tells you how it happens.
I'm just a bill, right? Yeah, so Congress shall make no law.
When the media actually did something helpful.
Respecting the establishment of religion. And you have to go back to the 18th century to understand what is meant by respecting in English at that time. Anyway, make no law respecting establishment religion, nor prohibiting the free exercise thereof. So if you say you can't do that, you can't put the 10 Commandments there, you can't do that, you can't do that, would be prohibiting the free exercise of religion. So the anti-establishment clause is not. It's saying federal government, those who make laws, Congress, keep your stinking hands off religion. Don't regulate it in any way. Don't say you have to do this, you have to do this, or you can't do this, you can't do that. Anyway.
Denise said the Constitution is like the Bible. We pick and choose how it reads. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's, and that's the irony of it all, right, Denise? I've said this for years, that the Bible is one of the only documents or books in the world that people can pick and choose pieces of it and make it say whatever the heck they want. And they do the same thing with the Constitution, as Janet Parshall taught me years ago.
I can do all things through a verse taken out of context.
Right. But, listen to Janet Parshall on her show a long time ago, Janet Parshall's America. One of the very first things I learned from Janet was that, there's two worldviews when it comes to the Constitution. There are the strict constructionists that believe that, hey,
it says what it means and it means what it says.
Exactly. What it says is you take it literally. But then there's the other part, read liberals and Marxists, communists, socialists, Marxist wackos, who actually believe that the Constitution is this breathable and flexible document that you can say whatever the hell you want.
The times dictate what it means.
And somehow
it's devoid of meaning in and of
right.
itself.
So it's
the culture superimposes meaning on it. It was meant to be meaningless by itself. We have to impose a meaning of good night.
Right. Well, so the point is that with the Bible, the Constitution, it's either breathable, it flows with the times, or it actually literally means what it says, which, we wouldn't do it with the Orange County Register, the Dallas Times, or whatever. We wouldn't do that. We wouldn't dare. But, anyway, okay, so there's a question from Jessica. May I ask a question? What do you think about what that Israel versus U.S. war that is happening right now? So Israel versus U.S. on war. So there's an Israel versus U.S. war happening right now? Well, I don't know about the war that you're talking about, but what I will say is that America is standing by Israel, as far as I know, because President Trump actually supports Israel, unlike the previous illegal occupant of the White House. And I think that when America decides to not support Israel, I think we're screwed. Yeah, I do. I think because we need to support Israel because God's chosen land is Israel, and God's word says that those people who bless Israel will be blessed. Those people who don't won't be. And I know some people are like, oh, it's controversial, but that's what I believe because I believe the Bible speaks to that. And, just saying. I think, my sponsor is a Messianic Jewish ministry, Ariel Ministries. I actually found out I'm Jewish like a couple years ago. I'm barefaced. My husband's also part Jewish. My Messiah's Jewish, just so you know. So regardless of our government, if our government decided to lose its mind and not support Israel like they did when Obama was our president, I would still support Israel. We used to actually have an Israeli flag hang outside our house at one point in California. So,
and I think it's it's after 9:30 now, but real quick, I think it's important to differentiate between Israel as a political.
Yeah, we don't agree with all the politics. Yeah,
and Israel as a people, and
right?
The promised geography,
right?
The land promised Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. And
Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. For us normal people.
Normal people.
Yeah.
I am abnormal.
Yeah, you are.
I'm proud of it.
Mm-hmm. But I love you. You're super cute.
That and the Israel of God mentioned in Romans chapter 10 or 11. Anyway.
Probably 12.
Anyway. Maybe.
9. 8. No.
Anyway. Yeah, I just wanted to make that differentiation. When we say, we're pro-Israel, that doesn't mean...
Yeah. Hey, you know what? Here's the thing you should do. You should go back through our archives. We interviewed a guy named Dr. Craig Von Busick a couple of weeks back. If you go back through our archives, we interviewed him about the book that he wrote about Israel and just the miraculousness of how Israel was formed. Actually, I finally got a copy. He sent it to me. He was on the 700 Club and all of that. It's a great interview, and anybody, who understands the Bible, first of all, most churches don't even teach you about Israel, so, that's the sad part. But, Israel is important. The New Jerusalem is just so you know, we're all going to end up in Israel at some point. Yeah, right? Okay, good. So we got somebody who supports Israel. That's good. Yeah. And, I look at Israel and I laugh because, Israel is the only Jewish nation surrounded by complete Muslim nations, and somehow it's more powerful than all those Muslim nations combined. And it's small like New Jersey, and it's still there. Just saying. And if God doesn't exist, explain Israel. You can't. You can't. And the only reason America was attacked was because we support Israel. That's the way it is, and it's unfortunate. And what's really unfortunate is the rise of anti-Semitism within the church. You got that whole idea of replacement theology that the church replaces Israel, which is nothing but a bad theology straight from the pit of hell. Because the devil don't like God. He doesn't like Israel, just so you know. Anyway, so that's the short answer. Any other questions, comments before we sign off? I actually did have an article titled Pope Tells Atheists Jesus Was Not a God at All. Outrage Ensues. And
you want to catch it tomorrow?
We could. Yeah, this was over on the Free Thinker website, Pathio's blog. But it was basically an article talking about how Pope Francis interviews a guy named Eugenio Scalfari, who's a 95-year-old atheist. And he basically is claiming that the Pope has denied that Jesus was actually God. And what we do know about the Vatican and all that stuff, it's just like, well, hello.
Well, it's the only true church, Stacy Lynn.
Wow.
It's the original church, founded in AD 33. I just, for those who joined in late, you had to see that.
Yeah, well.
Comment.
All right. Well, anyway. So I think that's it. All right. Okay, people, I guess that's it. Yeah, I'll tell you what, you guys. Hey, it's been a long day. It's been a long week. I just want to end the show by saying thank you to all of you guys who tune in, who support us. If you haven't joined my text message list, you can do that by texting Bible News to 33222. It's probably been scrolling there like the whole time. And also, just want to say thank you to those of you guys again who donate to us, who actually help us out, support us, because you believe in what we do. You know, and I know some of you're still trying to feel us out to see if we're real or not, real authentic. We are, you know, and I could give you referrals of people in our audience who've actually met us in person, who, you know, hey, what you see is what you get. Are we perfect? Nope. But honestly, you know, what you see is what you get. And, you know, we're not full of crap, just so you know. Especially after having food poisoning. Yeah. I do have to just share this one thing. This is funny. I do have to share this testimony about Legal Shield. So I got sick at Dave & Buster's in Utah, right? And me and my friend Tracy had the same food. We ate at the same time, had the same meal. And she came back to our Airbnb with us to spend the night up until early morning because she had a very early flight and her roommate had left the hotel. So they decided just to, you know, we said, hey, there's room at our Airbnb. Come and stay with us. And by the way, if you guys have never stayed at Airbnbs, you really need to just nix all hotels from now on. You know, unless you absolutely have to stay in a hotel, just chuck the hotels. I hate to say it because, you know, why would you want to put Marriott out of business? But whatever. Anyway, the Airbnbs are awesome. So we both got sick, and so I called Dave & Buster's up, and of course they're like, well, we haven't had any other complaints, and you're it, and essentially you're full of crap that, you know, you got sick on our food was essentially what their attitude was. So I picked up my phone and I called the emergency number for Legal Shield, because I was like, hey, I have to cancel my flight because there's no way I'm going to get on a flight and I'm going to be barfing and having diarrhea the whole trip. That's not going to happen. Turned out God was good. Our flight ended up getting canceled. I still find that a miracle because what's the likelihood? It did. We were able to get on another plane for no cost, which was a complete miracle. That was $700 savings like that. I'm still in shock that actually happened. But, you know, I used Legal Shield and I used the emergency number, and that wasn't constituted as an emergency. But I did call them up yesterday after calling back Dave & Buster's and saying, hey, you know what? My friend went to the doctor yesterday and her doctor said she had food poisoning. And I said, I'm just trying to get you guys to acknowledge that we got sick with your food. But they won't acknowledge it. They keep telling me that, well, you know, you got the stomach flu, because that's part of what I was told when I went to the doctor, which was another debt we incurred, you know. Anyway, so I called Legal Shield up yesterday and I talked to an attorney about this case. And what they said was, that there is no way I can prove that we actually got food poisoning from Dave & Buster's in Utah, because they didn't do blood work and they weren't able to track the salmonella or whatever it is that I got sick off of. But what they recommended, and they sent me an email today, was they recommended that I contact the Utah Department of Health, their food division, and report Dave & Buster's to them so that they can come out and investigate, make sure that their facility is up to par. Meanwhile, however, I called Dave & Buster's back, talked to one of the managers, And she's like, ma'am, it's not our food. Our chicken comes in, it's pre-cooked, etc., blah, blah. I get this big, long speech for about 20 minutes, and then she rudely, essentially hung up on me. I'm like, okay, that's not good. And then, so then I called him back, and I said, look, I need to get the last name of that manager, because I'm talking to my lawyer right now, and I just, I need that for my info. And I'm polite this whole time. I'm totally like I'm talking now. I mean, I'm not mad. I'm not yelling at them. I'm just saying, this is a matter of fact. I'm finding this weird that me and my friend Tracy ate the same meal. We got like sick from, and so then I got this other phone call from Dave & Buster's, another person yesterday. And they were like, so we hear that you contacted the lawyer, and we kind of want to talk you through this. And anyway, they were really nice and everything. I said, look, they're like, what is it that you want? I said, I want you guys to acknowledge that there is a reason that me and my friend both got sick eating the same food at the same time, because we ordered the same meal and they wouldn't do it. And so I was like, okay. And so the lady's like, hey, tomorrow on Saturday I'm getting married, but I want to let you know I'm escalating this to corporate. I'm going to have them call you tomorrow, and they'll call you before Saturday. So I'm like, okay. So this afternoon, did I tell you, Randall, they called me this afternoon?
No.
So this afternoon I get another phone call. I answer it. Didn't know who it was. I answered it. Hello. And they're like, may I talk to Stacy? I said, this is me. And they're like, hi, this is so-and-so from Dave & Buster's. We're from the corporate office. We heard that you contacted your attorney about some food that you had with us recently, and we're calling to kind of rectify the situation. Can you explain the situation? I said, well, you already know the situation. I said, the situation is that I got sick and my friend Tracy got sick. We had the same meal at the same time. And the lady's like, oh, well, we're really sorry to hear that happened. But, there's really no way you can prove it. And I said, well, I already know that because I talked to my lawyer and that's what they said. But they told me I could call the health department on you, if I wanted to. And so she's like, well, what is it exactly that you want? And I said, I want you guys to like admit, because your other person admitted you people had sick people with the stomach flu working in your kitchen the same day that me and my friend ordered the exact same meal and we got sick at your place. And she's like, well, we could do that, but maybe what we need to do is we need to get you to our next higher up level for customer relations, and to see if we can gift you with something or whatever. And I said, look, I'm not looking for anything. I'm not looking for a $100 gift certificate. I'm not looking for a t-shirt. I'm not looking for anything. I mean, if you'd like to give me that would be awesome. But I said, that's not what I'm looking for. She goes, well, do you want to talk to the person? And I said, I don't know. What do you think? She goes, I think it would be in your best interest to talk to him. I said, okay. And meanwhile, though, the other person that I talked to said, Stacy, I just have to tell you, you're one of the nicest people that we've talked to who's ever gotten sick at our restaurant. And I said, I am? And they said, yeah, believe me, we got some pissed off people that we've talked to before. And I said, well, look, I said, I'm just having a problem with the fact that me and my friend both ordered the chicken tacos and we both ate them at the same time. And then a couple hours later, we came back to our apartment at Airbnb and we both got sick. And I lost almost 8 pounds in less than a day because I vomited 7 big times, and you know what else came out of me? Just the other side, just saying. And, it was funny because they're like, yeah, we've been sick before. I get it. We're so, that was such an unfortunate experience, but we're not sure what you want from us. I said, I want you guys to acknowledge that somehow me and my friend who went to the doctor, and the doctor said she had food poisoning, and I went to the doctor, and they told me that it was probably a combo of food poisoning and the stomach flu. Well, we can't really do that, but maybe we can escalate this to a higher level. I said, okay. But we're really concerned that you contacted your lawyer. I said, well, Just saying. I said I was in town at a Legal Shield convention. Where other people got. Anyway, I'm sharing that because if you don't think saying you called a lawyer has any power, it does. Just saying. I'll let you know how it goes. I have no idea what they're going to do. I don't even know if there's any Dave & Buster's here in Tennessee. If they decide to give me something, I don't even know if I would have anywhere to go to redeem it. And the one lady's like, the last lady, she's like, well, normally we would go ahead and comp a meal or something, but, usually if somebody gets super sick at our restaurant, they don't want to come back here and eat. And I'm thinking, but, you guys have a ton of video games. I could go and play, the video game. And it was funny because one of the committee members, she was like, hey, let's go play this game. And so me and Randall with her daughter, we went and we played this game where you smashed the I don't even know what it was, but it was fun. Not that you needed to know that part, but anyway. So there you are, people.
Say goodnight, Stacy Lynn.
Good night, Stacy Lynn. All right, be bold, people. Stand up, go with God, get Legal Shield and identity theft protection. Because he loves you. Yeah, he does.